give Mr. Speaker, the President, he talked candidly well about peace, Mr. Speaker, after elections. He was happy, and in his speech, Mr. Speaker, we believe that Kenya's democracy is maturing to the level that we can have a general election, complete the general election. Whoever does not get satisfied with the result, Mr. Speaker, move to court and respect the institution, Mr. Speaker. That way, Mr. Speaker, we respect that the speech of the President, Mr. Speaker, was well put and placed properly before us. So, Speaker, I'm not forgetting something about CDF. Mr. Speaker, the President said that he was the MP before CDF. He was the MP during CDF, and he is the President during CDF. He knows the enormous, he knows the extent to which CDF has supported the Kenyan child in this country, Speaker. So, Speaker, therefore, we move together to see that we entrench CDF. And not only that, Mr. Speaker, we have the affirmative action, Mr. Speaker. That money is not adequate enough, Mr. Speaker. We have to look for how to bring that money up so that even our women representatives, Mr. Speaker, in this country can get a better money upwards. And this way, Mr. Speaker, will make them even lessen the burden that we carry as single constituencies. Mr. Speaker, if we move that direction, we shall be empowering this country. Mr. Speaker, finally, he talked well about how to empower our Senate and give it power to oversight. Mr. Speaker, you cannot go to the farm without a djembe. We cannot go to the farm without a hoe. And if that's the case, Mr. Speaker, let's also look for ways of how to empower the Senate through funding, Mr. Speaker, to do proper oversight, because we have a lot of money that go to the counties, to governors, Mr. Speaker, and they are not well off-sided. That way, Mr. Speaker, we shall be making this country a better home to govern. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if I have 1 minute to donate, Mr. Speaker, I donate. But thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this time.
Member of Parliament for Migori County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I would like to thank the Almighty God for this day. I'm very grateful that we are here today. And I thank God too, Mr. Speaker, for your life. As a member of from Migori County, I want to thank the people of Migori County for having the courage to vote me in as an independent candidate and having faith in me that as young and a single mother, I can represent the men, the women, and the children of Migori County. Mr. Speaker, sir, this journey took me approximately 15 years. And I thank God that all the tears that I've shedded have turned to be a beautiful laughter with a dimple. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to inform you and the House that I'm a feminist. And I'm inviting you, Mr. Speaker, sir, with a beautiful rose flower to join the club of feminism. All handsome men are feminists, and I'm starting to think you're one. Welcome to the club of feminism. And just to elaborate further, feminism is not about women having power over men, but having power over themselves. Welcome to the club. Mr. Speaker, sir, Migori is a beautiful county. We mine gold, we have fish, we do sugarcane, and all beautiful women come from Migori County. Welcome to Migori County as investors, as friends of the county. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to see the president at a close range. And I watched his lips, and I expected that every time he'd open his mouth, I expected to hear the word corruption. And I watched with very big eyes. His mouth opened once, and I said, he's going to spill it. And I looked at the judges here, and I said, today is the day when Mr. President is going to breathe fire into your ear. On a soft note, he gave a soft moment on it. I got disappointed. Please let him know Fatuma is disappointed, and my network is fully disappointed. I expect him to speak more on corruption. The moment we don't mention corruption all the time, then we start thinking it's a norm to live with, which is not. As much as the Bible mentions Jesus, so should any member or any leader of this country open his mouth. He should say corruption, even if he has nothing to talk about. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am glad that he mentioned about the Hustler Fund. And he again mentioned that he is glad there are more women who have been elected to this House from a single constituency. Mr. Speaker, most of these women came in and started as county women representatives, and through their hard work and through their faithfulness, they made it as single constituency members and even made as a governor, and congratulations to Gladys Wanga as the first Luo woman governor. Mr. Speaker, sir, on this note, I think we have showed the country and the world that honestly, women's hands do come clean most of the time. I am not saying our men's hands are dirty, but I'm saying, given the small opportunity that we have been given, with small fund as little as 6.8 per financial year per sub-county, we have showed a good report. On this note, I request, Mr. President, to hand over the Hustler Fund into the hands of the women who are the county MPs. Reason being, we are the people who in our docket we serve the disabled, the women, and the youth, who in a nice word are called the hustlers. And so we are closer to the hustlers. Kindly put this fund into our hands, and we promise you that you will see transformation with that fund. Mr. Speaker, sir, if we are not careful, then the hustlers will be hustled down, and the rich will pocket this money as the hustlers. Please take a great note on this, as I believe you have a daughter, a youth somewhere in your backyard who are also hustling. Mr. Speaker, sir, more has been said about the president's speech, and I will not sit on it much. We will continue talking about it for the next 3 days, but I'm here urging you, Mr. Speaker, sir, that if you see anything that is touching on women, give it a smile, put your pen down, put your signature, and Allah will give you more days to live. My fellow honorable members, some of us are new here, and we might sometimes step on your toes. Please just tap on our back and tell us, it's not done like that, sister. Don't embarrass us. Our constituents are watching. Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't have much to say, but I'm thanking all the voters who voted other women candidates, who gave them the opportunity to serve the great people of Kenya. And I'm asking, Mr. President, I come from a county called Migori County, a sub-county called Nyatike. In Nyatike, we have an island called Migingo. Migingo has been our island for quite a long time, but we have a problem. Some of our neighbors are claiming the land belongs to them. Kindly ask Mr. President to give us back our land because it has our fish. And as the Luo community, that is our staple food. Mr. Speaker, sir, in Migori County at large, we do mining. And so most of our miners who are Juakali people, who are the hustlers, are really being exploited from the price that they are being given by the rich, by those who buy, who in most cases are outsiders. Mr. Speaker, sir, I request the President, because we are looking into not borrowing as much as we have been borrowing. Gold is great, and I'm wearing one because I come from Nyatike. I request him to humbly protect the gold miners. They work under very difficult situations, and when mostly it is the women who dig the gold, who wash the gold, and the men give the price on it. So I beg you to talk to the President to look into our gold diggers and give them an opportunity and support them with the Hustler Fund so that they can do it in a better area, a better place that can also protect their lives. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are also sugarcane growers, and in Migori County we have the beautiful Sony sugar, very sweet sugar, and our company is not doing so well. Because he talked of farmers, I request him to look into Migori County. I know he knows that we did not vote him so much. He got very little, but he should just blink his eye and support Migori people, because after all, we are all Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will donate the few minutes so that I can show that the newcomers are very good people, the women are very good people, and they can also donate power. Kindly, men, donate some power to us. God bless you all.
Member for Kuresoi South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also to pass some messages. First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate you, together with your deputy, Madam Bosch Cholet, for having been elected Speaker and Deputy Speaker. With you, Honorable Speaker, with your deputy, these members are very secure. With your drug record, from your drug record, and from even your recent remarks, you are even better placed to assess these members, to evaluate these honorable members than even the SRC. Honorable Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate the great people of Kuresoi South for voting for me for the second time. They gave me almost more than 99% of the total votes cast. So I want to assure them that I will use extra energy and extra time to deliver services to them. Honorable Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate the 5th President of this country, together with his deputy. They were voted into office not because they come from a certain region in this country, but because of their impressive track record. For the President of this country, he has been a minister for education, he has been a minister for agriculture, and he has been the Deputy President of this country. And his track record speaks for itself. Concerning his speech, Honorable Speaker, I just want to commend him. From his speech, there is a clear indication that he understands this country. From his speech, there is a very clear indication that he will take this country to greater heights. So I want to commend him for that powerful speech which he gave recently. In his speech, he talked about the Hustler Fund, which will give hustlers affordable credit. In his speech, Honorable Speaker, he also mentioned that he respects the rule of law and democracy. That is also a very clear indication that Parliament will be independent and the judiciary will be independent. He also talked about having ministers, facilitating ministers to come to the floor of the House. For those of us who have been who were around the other time, the 12th Parliament, you agree with me that it has been a challenge meeting these ministers or cabinet secretaries. But the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya has assured us that he will facilitate all cabinet secretaries to be coming to the floor of the House. Honorable Speaker, fertilizer prices had the prices had shoot up. So we are happy to note that the president mentioned that the prices will be reduced from 6,500 to 3,500, and that we have seen it happen. So I want to commend him for that. He also talked about the CDF. CDF, Honorable Speaker, that is a fund, one of the funds which is ensuring equal distribution of resources all over the country. It is a fund which is touching all corners of this country. It is a fund we are seeing the effects or the impact. So I'm happy to note, I want to commend the President for assuring us that CDF will be sustained. Honorable Speaker, I don't intend to make a very long speech. I just want to appeal to all leaders and Kenyans to give our President support. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Isiolo North, Honorable Samal.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I take this opportunity to thank the Almighty God for the abundance of grace. I secondly thank the people of Isiolo North for having confidence in me to represent them in the 13th Parliament. I first represented them diligently in the 11th Parliament. I also wish to congratulate you and the Deputy on your election as the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker in the 13th National Assembly. Further congratulate all other members elected and nominated in this Augusta House. Mr. Speaker, on the presidential address, the President's address was inspiring and touching on the number of areas, including reminding us on the just concluded elections and the supremacy of the people and the decisions that on the leadership. I will address 4 key intentions raised in the speech: accountability and justice, agricultural productivity, infrastructure and development, and the CDF, national CDF. As a representative of the people of Isiolo, I believe the cabinet secretaries ought to be directly responsible to the Parliament. I welcome the idea of the cabinet secretary to appear and respond on the issues raised by the representatives of the people, so that whatever assurances they give can be followed and implemented by the people on the course of the Parliament Committee. This will enhance oversight, parliamentary oversight, and I will support amendments of this House, standing orders to the effect, to this effect. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of fairness and transparency in the government and access to justice is importance to my people in the Isiolo North. The intentions to increase the funding to the judiciary means more courts will be established in the far-flung areas of Isiolo North. And thereafter, my people will easily access the service, the justice. The unavailability of courts in the far-flung areas of this country has delayed and denied millions of Kenyans the justice and they so much require and deserve. The desire to have fairness in the governance is most welcome for the marginalized communities. It rekindles hope for the ones they will be represented in the government and enjoy development and basic government services like many other Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President, to issue raising access to water from 60% to 80%, the arid and including the constituency that I represent, the water scarcity and accessibility is very low, at less than 20%. The promise to increase the accessibility is most welcome and most. So if this will be focused on the arid and semi-arid areas and not just major urban areas, as the case in the past 59 years of independence, where major investment in the water sector targeted urban and most populous areas. Public-private partnership in the water sector will no doubt greatly accelerate water access in the rural areas. However, there is need to regulate. There is need to regulate the investment lest further exacerbate water scarcity through pursuit of profits. The county government should be involved in the process, and the government stake should protect the users from the product.
Is this time up? The Honorable Rindigiri Mugambi.
I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the speech by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. But before I do comment on his speech, I want to congratulate you and your deputy for election to the position of Speaker and the Deputy Speaker, respectively. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate my President and a mentor, together with his Deputy President, a friend and a mentor also, for election as the President and the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. I also take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to express my gratitude to the great people of Bori, the constituency that has brought me back for the second time. I want to tell the people of Bori, I joined His Excellency the President in the national building, and I shall ensure that I serve you with dedication, like I did for the first 5 years, to ensure that my people, you people of Bori, benefit from the government that you elected. Mr. Speaker, when I heard the speech from our President, it gave me an impression and a stamp of confirmation of a man who understands where Kenya has been, where Kenya is, and where Kenya is going. Mr. Speaker, the president spoke with confidence because he moved around this country during the electioneering period. He sat with so many professionals in every county to understand their economic, political, and social requirements as we move forward. And I'm sure through that interaction, His Excellency the President created or gave us an impression he is the best choice to lead this country. And he did. On 9th of August, it was confirmed by the citizens of this country he is the best man to lead this country. I therefore congratulate him, and I have no doubt in my mind that His Excellency the President will steer this country to greater heights. Mr. Speaker, this speech, I'm sure, was written with commitments. Mr. Speaker, the His Excellency the President started by talking about governance. And I want to thank him because he is one person who has suffered because of a regime that did not honor the governance in this country. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President has committed himself to the rule of law. He has committed himself to respect the independence of judiciary and the independence of this parliament. And I thank him for that. Because what we saw in the 12th parliament, Mr. Speaker, is the executive putting a string around the legislature. I am saying this, that has come to an end because His Excellency has said he will respect the autonomy of this House, he will respect the authority of this House together with the Senate. And that's very important as we advance governance and democracy in our country. Mr. Speaker, someone has said that the President did not speak about corruption. He captured the element of corruption in a speech. And that's why he argued that we need to support judicially so that they can help fight corruption. We cannot spend the whole day talking about corruption in a speech like this. But he took time to give us summary that if we offer support to the judiciary, then we are very confident that the fight against corruption will be successful. Mr. Speaker, I come from...
What's the point of order? What's the point of order, Honorable Coy?
Honorable Speaker, is it in order for Honorable Didimas Barasa to walk with the naked head, Mr. Speaker? In the last parliament, it had been ruled that he should wear his official hat, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think his hat was stolen by Junaid Mohammed. We have to have a fundraising for him to buy a new one. Mr. Speaker, before that interruption, I was alluding to the fact that the President has given us guarantee to the rule of law. And I'm sure the element of corruption has also been captured in the speech. I come from a very agricultural constituency. And Mr. Speaker, I congratulate you for coming to my constituency during the campaign times. You are the second speaker to come to my constituency. Mr. Speaker, food security is a key aspect in our community. Today, Mr. Speaker, I want to bring to the attention of this House that it has never rained for the last 4 years when the handshake was held between the two brothers. It's like they brought the curse of rain. Mr. Speaker, when the President was giving a speech, that's the day it started raining in my constituency. So you can imagine 4 years without rain, and now we have no food. I want to thank the President for ensuring that the theme of his Hustler movement, agricultural factor, is to increase productivity. And that's why I'm so happy to see the prices of fertilizer being reduced to an affordable rate. However, the fertilizer amount is not enough. And I would like to ask the President to ensure that we increase the volumes, because my constituency alone requires 100,000 metric tons of fertilizer. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the President because he has also committed himself to ensuring that the farming advisory services are extended to our farmers. Mr. Speaker, agriculture cannot be what it is and to reach the level that the President wants to be unless we have water. I want to thank the President because of his effort to bring in and encourage public-private partnership in mobilization of resources for water, because we all need water. This country needs water. And therefore, I thank the President for thinking that direction, because we, as private investors, if we encourage and join the government, we will have companies coming up to dig dams, to dig boreholes, and that will help in supplementing the input for water in agriculture. Mr. Speaker, I grew up in the insurance sector. That's my business. I kept on saying NHF need to be restructured. And I'm so happy because the President said, yes, it needs to be restructured to the effect that it become an universal health care. Mr. Speaker, I would not like to continue from there, but let me say, the President said this. The tax regime is very discriminative. Indeed it is. And through his administration, I am sure the tax regime will be brought back to where Kenyans can afford, and it should not be discriminative. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, people of Bori. We will continue working together. We will continue enjoying the freedom that has come after the Hustler Nation has become a reality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mbunge wa Jomvu.
After stopping Lege.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi pia nachukua fursa hii kukupongeza kwa kuchaguliwa kama spika, na vile vile Mheshimiwa Boss Shulei kama naibu wako. Mheshimiwa Spika, vile vile nachukua fursa hii kuwashukuru sana watu wangu wa Jomvu kwa kunichagua katika bunge hili kwa muhula wa 3. Hii haikuwa kazi rahisi, na kama Mheshimiwa Spika wanavoniita kule mtaani, kijana mwepesi, garang di mabiori, mzee fula ngenge, nataka kuambia kuwa niko hapa kwa nguvu ya Mungu. Nitawahudumikia kama vile nilivyohudumikia vipindi viwili. Vile vile Mheshimiwa Spika, natoa pongezi kubwa sana kwa watu wa Mombasa kwa kumchagua mwenzetu ambaye tulikuwa naye hapa, Mheshimiwa Abdulswamad Sharif Nasir, kwa gavana wa mji wa Mombasa. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati wa bunge 12 nilimweleza Mheshimiwa Mturi ambaye alikuwa spika wetu, nikasema mimi mjumbe wa Jomvu sikuwa na wazimu kusema Abdulswamad atakuwa gavana. Kwa hivyo na leo juu ya uongozi wako tuwashukuru gavana wa Mombasa ni Mheshimiwa Abdulswamad Sharif Nasir. Vile vile nikija kwa hotuba ya rais, Mheshimiwa Spika, hotuba ya rais ilikuwa mzuri, ilikuwa fupi, na haikuwa kuchokesha, na alisema mambo mengi, moja likiwa ni jambo la CDF. Katika hotuba yake kipengee cha 49 alizungumzia maneno ya CDF, akasema CDF imeweza kuleta mabadiliko makubwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ninavyofahamu mimi, CDF ina kitengo cha mazingira, kuna kitengo cha basari, kuna kitengo cha michezo, na vile vile tuko na miradi. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, hivi sasa wazazi wetu wote katika constituency zetu zote, wajumbe sote twasumbuliwa kwa shauri ya watoto karo za shule. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni muhimu sana kwenye hili jambo la CDF kuona hata kama twasubiri kulipitisha kikatiba, ni muhimu kama serikali tuangalie kitengo hiki cha cha basari tutakifanyia namna gani. Kitambo cha kusubiri kipengee ama mambo ya CDF kupita, tuweke kipaumbele mambo ya basari ili tuweze kugawanyiwa katika kila constituency, tuweze kuwapatia watu wetu. La si hivyo, tumeona rais ameondoa maneno ya fuliza kwa Safaricom, lakini tusipochunga tutakuwa na fuliza ya elimu ikiwa hatutaweza kupata hizi pesa kwa haraka. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimeona Mheshimiwa Rais katika kipengee cha 29 ya hotuba yake amezungumzia juu ya mambo ya makaazi ama affordable housing, na vile vile watu kupata haki ya kuona namna gani wataweza kupata makao. Mheshimiwa Spika, hili ni jambo muhimu kwa sababu tukiangalia jambo la hatimiliki ni muhimu kuliangazia, na tumshukuru rais ameweza kuliangalia. Kwa maana hiyo, watu wangu walioko Alidina, Bangladesh, Owino Uhuru, Vikobani na sehemu mbalimbali wataweza, ikiwa serikali itatia maanani mambo haya waliosema, kuona kuwa wameweza kupata hatimiliki za ardhi na hali waweze kujiendeleza na maisha yao. Mheshimiwa Spika, katika kipengee cha 48 cha hotuba ya Mheshimiwa Rais amezungumzia juu ya mambo ya janga ama janga la drought ama ukame. Hili ni jambo muhimu, lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, pia tusema mara nyingi serikali ikiangalia jambo hili la ukame katika kuwapatia watu vyakula na usaidizi mwingine, huangalia maeneo kadhaa, na wakatuacha sisi watu wa Mombasa kuonekana kwa tojiweza. Lakini yafaa ieleweke pia, ndani ya mji wa Mombasa kuna watu katika vitongoji ambao hawajaweza kujiweza katika hali nzuri, na ni muhimu serikali ikitangaza majanga kama haya kutaka kuyasaidia pia waangazie katika sehemu hizo. Mheshimiwa Spika, katika kipengee cha 33 Mheshimiwa Rais amezungumzia juu ya mambo ya huduma ya afya. Leo Mheshimiwa Spika, nasema jambo hili ni muhimu liangaliwe, serikali itoe huduma ya afya kwa wote, kwa sababu saizi tukiangalia sisi tuna karibu takribani milioni 910 ya CDF ambao tunapeleka kwa NHIF. Alafu vile vile tunaangalia pesa hizi pia zatumika kwa county. Pia ni muhimu serikali iangalie, aidha mambo haya yabaki kwetu ama vile vile yawe yatabaki katika county zetu kuhudumikia watu wetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, Rais amezungumza akasema huduma hii atahakikisha kupatikane pesa ili iweze kulipa madeni. Leo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nimesimama mbele yako hapa, deni moja ambalo mimi mjumbe wa Jomvu niko nalo kwa serikali hii ya Kenya ni kwa watu wangu wa Owino Uhuru ambao serikali ilisema walipwe baada ya ile sumu ambayo ya lead iliweza kuwapata watu hawa. Wakaambiwa walipwe pesa hizi Katika bunge la 12 tuliyaleta maneno haya, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambayo Mheshimiwa Justin Muturi ndiyo aliyekuwa spika, akatuma hoja hii kwa mwanasheria mkuu ambaye ni Attorney General. Mimi Mheshimiwa Spika, nakusihi katika bunge la 13 litume tena jambo hili kwa Attorney General ambaye ni yule yule Justin Muturi ambaye alikuwa hapo, ili ndio itakuwa rahisi kwake yeye kuwalipa watu wangu wa Jomvu, na hapo ataonekana fulangenge kweli ameweza kufanya kazi kwa watu wake. Leo Mheshimiwa Spika, tuna matatizo mengi sana ambayo tuko nayo. Nikiangalia katika hali hiyo ya fidia, watu wengi walifutwa kazi katika KPA, na jambo hili Mheshimiwa Gavana wetu wa Mombasa alipokuwa hapa akiwa mjumbe wa Mvita aliweza kulileta na tukaweza kulisupport. Watu wale tungependa serikali ione kuwa wameweza kuwaregesha kujifanyia kazi katika sehemu ile ili waweze kukimu maisha yao. Na vile vile tumpongeza Mheshimiwa Rais kuona kuwa ameweza kurudisha utendakazi wa bandari katika mji wa Mombasa. Hili ni jambo ambalo tulikuwa tukilitamani kwa muda mrefu, na leo tumpongeza kwa kufanya jambo hilo. Lakini vile vile nataka kusema katika miji yote ambayo inaongozwa na iko na port ndani yake, mfano kama Antwerp, kama Long Beach kule Amerika, kama kule South Africa Durban kwenye municipality inayoitwa Ethekwini, hawa watu hupata pesa kutokamana na hizi port. Kwa hivyo na sisi ni hamu yetu tukiwa watu wa Mombasa kuona kuwa maadamu poti hii iko ndani ya Mombasa, tutaweza vile vile kupata kipato katika poti ile ya Mombasa. Lakini la zaidi, nashukuru Mheshimiwa Rais kwa yale ambayo ameweza kuiangazia, na vile vile kukupongeza na kupongeza watu wa Jomvu kwa kutuchagua na wenzangu wote kwa mara ya 3 kuja hapa. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, na Mwenyezi Mungu atubariki.
Kimani Ichung'wah.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and let me also have my take on the President's speech, Honorable Speaker. And I'll just begin by first congratulating His Excellency the President, as I also take this opportunity to welcome him again to Parliament. I think those of us who were around this lunchtime, we were glad to welcome His Excellency the President as he joined members of Parliament and senators for lunch. And because, as you witnessed during his speech, he says he promises an administration that will be dedicated to the just and fair governance of all Kenyans. When he visits the precincts of Parliament, he does so not just as a former member of Parliament, but also as the head of state and a friend to this House, and clearly showing his very clear intent to work, as he said during his speech and his address to the nation, in a bipartisan manner for the best interest of the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, you will see from his speech, other than appreciating the difficult election that was very close that we just came from, and the beauty of our democracy, and how well our democracy is evolving, that for the first time in the last close to 20 years, we've been able to go into an election and emerge from that election without having to lose lives out of post-election or pre-election violence. And Honorable Speaker, Kenyans being able to get back to their places of work and their businesses and continuing with life after voting and having their leaders in place. And I think it's not just something that we commend His Excellency the President and his administration for steering us through. Because I do remember, Mr. Speaker, when we were going through around the country campaigning, His Excellency the President was emphatic that there will be no people throwing stones. There will be no rigging of elections. There will be nobody swearing themselves in. And we shall have a peaceful country after the elections. And I think by God's grace and the gracious people of Kenya, we were able to attain that. Honorable Speaker, I must commend the people of Kenya that we have set in motion a new trajectory where we go into elections, vote in our leaders, and we continue with our lives and expect that those who lose elections accept the results of those elections and move on with life and help those that have won not only to govern but to act in the best interest of Kenya. And that is why even in his address to this House, His Excellency the President was quite clear that he intends to bring legislative agendas to this House that will require a bipartisan approach, because there is nothing in the plan. And when I talk about the plan, I talk about the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza coalition. There is nothing that we put in that plan that was there by mistake. There is nothing we put in the plan that was in the interest of anybody within the Kenya Kwanza coalition. But everything in the plan and everything in the manifesto and whatever legislative agenda will come to this House from that manifesto is in the best interest of the people of Kenya. And we are here in the 13th Assembly, Honorable Speaker, as representatives of the people of Kenya. And therefore, I want to ask each and every one of us that whatever legislative agenda that comes here, from the housing agenda that His Excellency the President spoke about here, and if you have listened to His Excellency the President, if you have been watching his actions over the last few days, you can tell that clearly he's very passionate on the housing agenda, he's very passionate, extremely passionate on the universal health coverage agenda, on the social protection and upscaling our savings culture in this country. He spoke very much about that, and more so also on the decriminalization of enterprise and supporting the enterprising young Kenyans and the business community through the Hustler Fund, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I am glad that the President was also very bold. And I remember in his speech, Honorable Speaker, the President was quite dramatic when he said that I have news. Yes, indeed, if I can quote, the President said, I have news, and it is not very good news. Our financial situation is not very good. Honorable Speaker, it is true that this administration has inherited a country whose economy is not working for the interest of Kenyans. We, or the government, the present administration has inherited an economy that was only working for a few people. And the administration has a huge responsibility to make not just the hustler economy, but the economy of the Kenyan people to work for the millions of the Kenyan people rather than work for a few. Honorable Speaker, during the campaign, those of us who campaigned with the Kenya Kwanza coalition, we spoke at length about state capture. Honorable Speaker, you know, state capture in this country has been so real. And that is what has bedeviled the management of our economy and its affairs. It is state capture that captured our economy, and the economy stopped working for Kenyans and started working for a few people who wielded the instruments of power. Honorable Speaker, it is my prayer, and I am confident that part of the legislative agenda that will be transacted on this floor will be to reverse that state capture of our economy and make our economy work for the millions of Kenyans who voted for each one of us here, and also those who voted for and against the president, because we must act in a manner that we help our people. If not to do anything else, honorable members, to uplift our people from the poverty that millions of our people are living under today. Today, Honorable Speaker, people in close to 14 or 15 of our counties are going without food. There is a drought ravaging our country, Honorable Speaker, and we cannot be able to feed our people if we do not review our budgetary estimates for this year, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I know the President did mention a figure of 300 billion, and it sounded humongous that you could institute budget cuts to the level of 300 billion. But honorable members, I want to convince you and persuade you that it is possible. And you know the padding that is usually done in budgets, especially in the run-up to a general election. Honorable Speaker, you'll be shocked that immediately before, a week before the elections, and a week after the elections, the former regime was still padding the budget and making commitments. By the third week after elections, they had made commitments of close to 300 billion, 200 billion shillings, over and above what had been approved by this House only in June, at the beginning of June of this year. And you wonder, Honorable Speaker, what is this that had to be done outside the budget under Article 223 by those who served us in the National Treasury? That could not be done and could not be done during the annual estimates only in April, 4 months ago. And Honorable Speaker, if you go through many of the things that they have committed to, Honorable Speaker, are things that emanate from state capture. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, as His Excellency the President calls on us in this House to help him, because we are the budget-making House, to rationalize our budget for this financial year to make it work for Kenyans. We are not going to rationalize the budget to make it work for sections of Kenya. We will rationalize the budget to make it work for the majority and millions of Kenyans across the board. And that is why His Excellency the President, he said, he wants an economy that will work and a government and administration that will serve Kenyans in all constituencies, in all wards, in all counties in the Republic of Kenya. And we have no obligation, Honorable Speaker, other than to support His Excellency the President. Honorable Speaker, I've had members question the President's speech on the talk about corruption. And indeed, the Honorable Fatuma from Migori County said she was disappointed with the President because he did not speak, he did not talk about corruption. I want to tell you, honorable members, President William Ruto does not need to speak about corruption. He needs to act about corruption. And he has started acting. He has ensured that we are resourcing the IG's office. He has given financial independence to our criminal justice system to make sure that we do not just become like the previous regime that talked and spoke about corruption from the first day in office to the last day in office and did nothing about corruption. President...
Your time is up. Member for Westlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance also to speak on this speech of the President. Mr. Speaker, first I would like to thank the people of Westlands for electing me a third time in a row. Mr. Speaker, it was not easy because I had went for the position of the governor. I was out there and then came back, but they still had trust in me. I don't take it for granted. And for the first time, I also won in all the polling stations in Westlands. So that is a no feat. The second, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate you and the Honorable Gladys Sholay, my chair. She was my chair in my last Parliament, for being elected Speaker and Deputy Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to also speak on this speech of the President. First, the President talked about us amending the standing orders to allow the cabinet secretaries to come to the floor of the House and articulate the government policies and answer questions from members. Mr. Speaker, when the people of Kenya decided to have a new constitution, they wanted to have a pure presidential system. And this, Mr. Speaker, it makes sure that the executive does not belong to this House, Mr. Speaker. So for us, I believe the cabinet secretaries can continue to come and articulate the government policies at the committee stage, but not on the floor of the House. because that, as the Deputy President has coined a word called state capture, it will amount to the executive capturing Parliament. We would like Parliament to operate without any being twisted by or intimidation by the executive coming to be part of this House, Mr. Speaker. We believe that we can do better. The government can still function even without not having the cabinet secretaries to come here. This idea was in the BBI, but it was rejected. So I believe it is not yet time for us to allow that because it's not a hybrid. Mr. Speaker, the second thing I want to highlight about the President talking about the CDF. The CDF was the first default fund in this country, Mr. Speaker. And I'm sure even you, when you are a member of Parliament, you experienced the effects of the CDF. CDF has done much work and has reached the farthest corner of this country and the lowest unit of our economy. Mr. Speaker, the impact is out there and it's known. We have seen what CDF has done. Parents have no problem with children go to school because CDF pays school fees. CDF is the one doing development in schools, infrastructure, and many other things. So those who are hell-bent to kill the CDF, Mr. Speaker, I believe with the support of the President and all of us, Mr. Speaker, it will make sure that the CDF remains alive and it will continue to be there so that we can use it to support our people, Mr. Speaker. And the development in schools and security and many other things that the CDF has done. Mr. Speaker, the President also spoke about the affordable housing. This is one of the things that I wanted to do as a governor of Nairobi, because Nairobi City County is the owner of land, most of the land in Nairobi. And we thought of partnering with the private sector to build affordable housing for our people, the replica of Soweto in South Africa, where we have houses that are affordable and decent, and all amenities are available to the people. Mr. Speaker, when the government can come in and continue with this program that was started by President Uhuru, I'm very sure we shall do away with this informal settlement in Nairobi and make Nairobians become homeowners by creating cheap and credit facilities and affordable providing land, and then the developers can now make houses much cheaper and people can use mortgages to purchase houses, Mr. Speaker. And with that, Mr. Speaker, we'll have many people owning homes in Nairobi, because at the moment, 80% of the people who stay in Nairobi don't own homes. Homes are owned by just a few people. Mr. Speaker, I want also to say that as a representative of the people of Nairobi, we know the kind of life that people live in informal settlement in Nairobi. And when we have this kind of arrangement, Mr. Speaker, of having affordable housing, it will bring, Mr. Speaker, decency and dignity to the people who live in those informal settlements, Mr. Speaker, and also ownership of houses.
Point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raise on a point of order on standing order number 97. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the interest that members have got on this discussion, you realize that the time allocated for each member is 10 minutes. So in 1 hour, we are doing only 6 members. I want to move a motion based on standing order 97-2 to limit the time allowed to each member to at least 6 minutes, so that we can be able to have 10 members speaking in every 1 hour. And therefore, in 1 hour, we'll have 10 members. So in the remaining 4 hours, we can do 40 members. let me finish. I submit to the Speaker, and then you can contribute to the motion. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm requesting that I move that motion, because that motion doesn't require any prior notice, that we reduce the time allocated for each member to 6 minutes. I submit. Thank you.
I think so far we're doing quite well. What I'll do is I encourage members, if you have made a point that has been clearly understood, you can always surrender a few minutes of your 10 minutes for others.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and also talk about the hustle avant. Mr. Speaker, we already have 3 or more funds existing: the Youth Enterprise Fund, Women Enterprise Fund, WESO Fund. Mr. Speaker, if we can put more resources in these funds, they are more accessible. They have also done so much, and I'm sure with the Hustler Fund, 50 billion that the President is proposing, it can go a long way to improve also on these funds, because we have been using them, Mr. Speaker, to reach out to the smaller business enterprises and others, Mr. Speaker. And also building a credit facility for people who are in small businesses is something that we need to improve, because economies are developed by these small enterprises, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to Mr. Speaker, I also want to speak on the issue of housing, Mr. Speaker, which I've touched on, and hustler funds. I believe that is all that I want to speak on this motion. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Member for Lunga Lunga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now that I subscribe to Christianity, first of all, let me thank God for this chance. Second, Mr. Speaker, I would like to congratulate you for your election as our Honorable Speaker, together with your deputy. Mr. Speaker, Lunga Lunga is home of your party. And I want to assure you, we are doing well. But still, I want to mention that we have few challenges which I have to put across here, so that as I proceed with the speech of, to talk about the speech of the President, but I have some few issues to mention. One is about the elephants who are terrorizing Wananchi, more so in Moren Ward, and to be precise, a village unit known as Kwanyanje, or Kasemen village unit. We have Ramis Sugar Factory, which has become a menace. It is not paying the outgrowers, and we don't know even where the sugar is being taken to. Teachers are not, and today being a Teachers' Day, I wish to also mention that the teachers in Lunga Lunga constituency are expecting to get hardship allowance, which I want to assure them that through this chance they've given unto me, we will push so that it is available to them. Land grabbing is the song. It has already been mentioned by my colleagues. Water is also very scarce, but still we have this chance to make sure that we address those issues. Second, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank the President and also congratulate him at the same time, because, Mr. Speaker, my former boss, Honorable Salim Vuria, God willing, if this House so wish, he will be the CS for Mining, Blue Economy, and Maritime Authority. And this is a very good gesture for people of Kwale, and specifically Honorable Mvurya, because when he was the governor then, he did a good job in the sector or Department of Education. He has educated so many children to the level of university. Mr. Speaker, going forward, I want to applaud what His Excellency the President said in his speech, paragraph 14. He confirmed to the nation that he's going to actually be just and fair to the people of Kenya. I want to applaud or to actually say that going by that, he assured us that he's going to make sure that the judiciary is well financed. And to that, we actually congratulate, I personally congratulate him. Again, I want to comment on the issue of affordable housing. I personally visited Pangani. The project is amazing. I was imagining if this project was at the Lunga town, then even the people themselves could be even happy seeing, not even in, staying in those houses. Mr. Speaker, I want to mention something about the national government CDF. Yes, my colleagues have just said here that parents are calling, requesting for fees, all about the school fees and all that. Surely, students are at home. I would wish to say it here, that I know we are the people to conclude this issue, and I want to request, to urge my colleagues here to expedite the process so that we put this thing into rest and the people of Kenya enjoy, and especially the aspect of school fees. Mr. Speaker, I want to mention here that school, education in Kenya is very expensive. And apart from crying about the national government CDF and bursaries and all that, we need to do something about the cost of education in Kenya. Because today, taking a student to Form 1, it is a nightmare. The requirements are so enormous that even the school fees are even lower than the items required. I don't see the correlation between a uniform and the content which the teachers are teaching. These are some of the issues which we should be looked into. Again, Mr. Speaker, I want to applaud the resumption of port services in Mombasa. This cannot be left without being mentioned, because the economy of Coast Region has now come back to life. I want to also put into records that Coast Region generally has potential to have as many ports as possible. We also have Lamu. We have another port which is also on the way to be established at Shimoni. And I wish to request the concerned parties, and I will follow up myself to make sure that at least the process has been started so that we have the third port in Coast Region for our people to enjoy and have places where they can basically have jobs and also run businesses. Mr. Speaker, the issue of agriculture, there's subsidy which has been mentioned, and actually the President has already acted. But I want to mention here that in Lunga, we have mango farming, which needs to be also considered. And I wish to reiterate here that if we invest in this farming, I want to assure this Honorable House that even the economy of that area will grow, and and also you'll have very sweet mangoes from the other part of the world called Lunga Lunga. Lunga Lunga is a constituency with all characteristics. Down there, we have the seashore. Around Zombo Ward, it's agricultural. That's where mangoes are in plenty. But on the other side, where elephants are terrorizing residents, it is semi-arid. And water is a problem. I want to thank His Excellency the President because he asserted that he will do all means possible to make sure that he also avails water to our people. Electricity is another issue which needs to be addressed by this government because we have got so many transformers which are not working, especially in Lunga Lunga. And I believe, as we mention all this, the relevant authorities need to up their game so that we have power to the people. Infrastructure in the sides of roads, that is also another issue. We need to thank His Excellency the Deputy President. He has really supported us. 2-3 roads have been done, but still a bigger part of Lunga Lunga needs to be considered for good road network. And we want to assure His Excellency the President that we will present a memo to him if he so wish to ensure that he supports us into this venture. Having no much ado, I wish to thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Women Rep Laikipia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me start by congratulating you on your election as the Speaker of this House and to your Deputy, Gladys Sholei. Mr. Speaker, secondly, let me thank the great people of Laikipia County, the people who believed in me and overwhelmingly gave me their votes and allowed me to become their woman representative. Mr. Speaker, it would be unfair for me to just end my story at that, and I think it would be good to mention that my journey with Laikipia County didn't begin with the ballot. The great people of Laikipia County, when I was called to the university many years ago, contributed their hard-earned resources and gave me an education, and that's how come I was able to go to the university. For that, I will remain forever grateful, and I appreciate that they also gave me an opportunity to serve them. Mr. Speaker, being a daughter to retired teachers, it's also important that today I mention Happy Teachers' Day to all the teachers in this country and in the whole world. Now to the President's speech, Mr. Speaker. For me, there were 4 issues that went home for me, and the first issue is in regard to unity. In the morning, I listened to one of my colleagues say that His Excellency the President didn't put a lot of emphasis on unity, and I would want to mention, having read this speech very carefully, it's not once, twice, thrice, but 7 times that His Excellency the President places a rallying call for unity in his speech. The first instance is when he reminds us that the closeness of the election is an indication that what unites us is greater than what divides us. He later on goes to mention that he'll be a hardworking and committed president to every Kenyan in this country. Thirdly, he goes on to mention that his administration will be of service to each and every person, and he also mentions that his will be a just and fair government to everyone. He also mentions that he'll serve every ward, every constituency, and every county in any region of this country. To me, that shows a lot of commitment to serve this country and to serve this country as a whole. Mr. Speaker, I move on to the second point, which went home for me, and that is His Excellency the President requesting this Honorable House to amend the standing orders to allow for cabinet secretaries to actually attend to the House and explain the government policy as well as articulate the government agenda. But most importantly, he mentions that cabinet secretaries will have an opportunity to answer questions from the members of this House. To me, Mr. Speaker, this is the most important thing that would happen in my tenure in this House, because, Mr. Speaker, every 2 a.m. at night, I receive a call from one of my constituents based somewhere in Kamwenje, asking me, Jane, the rustlers are outside my house, they're about to drive away with my cattle. On other occasions, I receive phone calls of members of my constituency telling me they have to sleep under their beds because the rustlers know how to aim their guns at the level of their beds. For me, Mr. Speaker, having a cabinet secretary attend to this house will enable me answer these people and will also ensure that we restore security to our great county of Laikipia. Mr. Speaker, our issues don't end there, and having the cabinet secretaries attend parliament will also enable me to end the human-wildlife conflict in my county. We live in a situation where our people plant, but it is elephants that harvest their produce. That way, Mr. Speaker, I will be able to engage the cabinet secretary and there'll be an end to these problems that my people face. Last week, Mr. Speaker, I received a call from one of my chiefs who informed me that there was a leopard roaming around in the village of Mudengera. Mr. Speaker, I don't know what I'll do with a leopard, but having the cabinet secretary here will enable me ensure full security for my people and safety in all that they do. Mr. Speaker, I also appreciate cabinet secretaries coming to the house because in my county, we have villages like Kafiro, Liki, Majengo, Manguo, and Minor Estates, where our people have lived without title deeds. This is a government that is committed to economically empowering our people. I believe when our people receive their title deeds, that will be a way forward for them, and they will grow economically. Mr. Speaker, I also talk of infrastructure issues in my county, which I believe a cabinet secretary will be able to answer me because we have had promises over years of a road between Nanyuki to Rumuruti being tarmacked. Mr. Speaker, I believe this is a new dawn for my county and all this is going to happen. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we have had promises of mega dams in my county. We all know we can no longer rely on rain-fed agriculture, and so our people are looking forward to have their mega dam built. Mr. Speaker, I know this is eventually going to happen in this tenure. Allow me to go to my third point, which is affordable credit. Mr. Speaker, it's important to mention that prior to joining the executive, I worked in the private sector. And having been an entrepreneur, I know the three challenges an entrepreneur has are access to information, access to markets, and access to finance. Of course, access to finance is the most difficult of them all, and having His Excellency the President mention that we are now going to have affordable credit through the Hustlers Fund, that is a very welcome gesture, and I know it's going to support most of these small businesses. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I speak on agriculture. I am very glad that the prices of farm inputs have gone down, starting with the fertilizers, and I believe our people will be able to produce better. With those remarks, Mr. Speaker, allow me to conclude by borrowing words from His Excellency the President's speech and saying, let us all work together to ensure that every Kenyan is proud to call Kenya their home. And I wish to actively participate in this House on my matters of legislation, representation, and oversight. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Peter Orero Kibra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Of course, they are saying it is Teachers' Day. I am called Mwalimu Peter Orero Kibra. Now, when you are not here in the morning, I think that seat, maybe it is synonymous with you. Some of my colleagues kept on saying, Madam Speaker, sir. So I hope we'll not continue talking like that. Now, I want to first of all thank the people of Kibra for having confidence in me and electing me overwhelmingly, giving me their votes, and putting their aspirations and trust and faith in me to come to this august house to articulate their issues and also to let those who are here with us know that I represent the biggest slum, not only in this country, but almost in the world. And Mr. Speaker, sir, the powers that you have, overwhelming powers that you have, when you look at our standing orders, those powers and any issue that is not within the Constitution and the standing order,
you have the authority to say, I would want you today to declare that Kibra should be a hardship area, that when you give food relief, you also start with Kibra, because I have residents who live not only below $1 a day, but sometimes you find I have residents who cannot afford their meals, not one meal, but all the meals in a day. I know some of my colleagues have not been to slums. One day I will take you to see how slums look like. Some of you have not seen poverty. So I would wish that the Speaker take this very, very seriously. In fact, when I heard His Excellency the President pronounce that he's going to bring a hustler fund, I thought the only constituency he had in mind was Kibra constituency. And that is the more reason that I stand here today. That touched my heart, that my people this time will be taken care of. I want to say that in Kibra, it is a slum that even the health facilities that we are talking about, we lack health facilities. Now you know that also if you cannot have 3 meals in a day, it means the immunity level of your body goes down, and within no time that you are susceptible to diseases, and our life are normally shortened. So I want to say that we need to hasten this idea of health care, because it is going to benefit my people more than any other people that we have around. So because of that, I really support the speech of the President, because it talked about the health care. You know, the first time we are speaking, we are told now this is our maiden speech, and I hope that when I heard the President speak, he made one paragraph. I think it is the shortest paragraph in his short speech. I think 37. And he said, Honorable Speaker and members, I have a news, not good news, because this country, our financial status is bad. Now, when you look at this speech, in almost all the paragraphs, we are just talking about the state of the economy in this country. And when I look at our state of the economy, you realize that when the governor, the central bank governor, came to talk to us, one thing he said is that the debts that we have, that we are servicing, is about 8.5 trillion in this country. And he projected that within the next 1 year, one financial year, it might move to 9.2 trillion. But when I looked and I heard the speech of the President, he said that 65% of our revenue still goes to pay for our debt. We must look at mechanisms, structures on how we are going to lower our debts. And when we see that we are going to offer 300 billion as a cut, I want to concur with one of our members who spoke here that the first priority we look at each department in our government and see how much was not spent in these departments. That is called the absorption. Which department did not absorb? Looking at all the departments, I have realized in the governments that the absorption rate, sometimes you find that some government departments only absorb up to 60%. So instead of having budget cuts across the board, we go by looking at the absorption rate of these departments, and from there we can raise the 300 billion. Now, we also realize that our expenditure recurrent is more than our revenue. And we are told that maybe within the next 3 years, we will be able to have more revenue than the recurrent expenditure. Now, this requires a lot of strict measures, and I will urge those concerned, the technocrats, to take this very, very seriously. Now, I would wish to talk about education. I'm an educationist, and that is why I'm called Mwalimu. And now, the speech of the president should have put a lot of emphasis on education. Education is what equalizes the people, whether you are poor or whether you are rich. Now, the education system in our country is at a balance. I have seen that we have a committee. I don't think it is a task force. It is a committee that will look at reforms required in education. I believe that these reforms will not affect the real stakeholders in the education system. The major stakeholders are the teachers, the parents, and the students. Most of the parents have been talking about a burden in this CBC. However, when you talk to the parents very keenly, the only thing that they are complaining about is they are given also homework to help their students. And that is the only thing the parents are talking about, apart from also that it is expensive. So I would rather ask those who have been charged with this duty of looking at the reforms required in education to consult widely, especially with the Heads Association and these major stakeholders, to see that if we bring these reforms, it will not take us less than 20 years again that we need another education system. I also urge the members of the parliament that when we need such of these reforms, they must be brought into this house so that we debate about those reforms properly before we enact them into laws. When the president talked about the Hustler Fund, I went and looked at the various funds that we already have. And today I saw the member of parliament of Matungulu, I think Mr. Mutinda, has already brought a bill, and I think he has written to the speaker, to look at some of these funds so that we ground them in law. I have seen that he has written about the national government, CDF, Constituency Development Fund. Then I have also seen that he has put the NGAF for women. He has also put the Weather Fund, the Youth Development Fund, and then the Hustler Fund. I think the Hustler Fund should not be merged with the Weather Fund. This Weather Fund has been used, especially in the slum areas. This is what has helped the people to start their small and small businesses. The Hustler Fund should be treated on its own entity because we are pumping around 50 billion. When we spread this to all the constituencies, I think it is going to give a big impact, especially to the young and small entrepreneurs. So I would say that when we look at the legislation and at this bill, let us not combine the Weather Fund, the Youth Fund, the NGAF, and the Hustler Fund. Let them be treated differently so that we have more avenues for our young businessmen so that they can grow with this fund. I would also want to look at the separation of...
Time is up. The member for Turkana North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to thank the people of Turkana North for giving me a chance to represent them in the 13th Parliament. Most of you might not know where exactly Turkana North is. Turkana North borders two international borders, that is Ethiopia and South Sudan. And the community in Turkana North is purely pastoralist community. So when you hear about drought, the long dry spells, most of the people in Turkana North are affected because of the pastoral arrangement. Now, Turkana North people placed their hopes and aspirations on me, having worked with them before in their previous assignments, and they believe I am able to represent them and ensure that their hopes and aspirations are taken care of. Now, going to the President's speech, I want to pick out a few things that concern people of Turkana North and Turkana in general. The government needs to put in place and take into consideration the mainstay of the Turkana people. And their mainstay is in the pastoral economy. Looking at the speech and what has always happened, we have a lot of initiatives that look into strengthening pastoral economy. But the problem has been implementation. A lot of strategic papers have collected dust in government offices. But this time around, we want to urge the government to look into the pastoral economy, because we do not want to always make noise on the drought situations, provision of relief food to our people, because in essence, if the government takes interest into what we are calling the pastoral economy, the people of Turkana and northern Kenya in general will have drought and relief food provision as a thing of the past. Now, one thing I really want to bring out in terms of interventions on the pastoral economy. We realize we have KMC in Nairobi, which is way far away from northern Kenya, where pastoralism is practiced. What the governments, subsequent governments have been doing and expecting is pastoralists who have engaged in business. And I want the honorable members, Mr. Speaker, to know that our people have begun engaging in business with their livestock. It is not as it used to be. And we want, going forward, we want abattoirs to be established in each of these pastoral counties, so that our people don't have to move their livestock, their cows, goats, all the way from, say, Lokitang or Todonyang or Kibish, all the way to Nairobi, where there is a KMC. So government should be proactive and look into the needs of our pastoral communities. There is also need to engage in climate change initiatives. That is presently what is discussed all over the world. And we all know what is causing the droughts, the long dry spells, especially in those areas, is the climate change that is affecting our rain periods. So the government should take this into consideration, because when I was watching the president give his speech in the UN General Assembly, he mentioned that Kenya will be proactive on interventions on climate change. So this we will look into. We will continue reminding the government that northern Kenya and Turkana in particular will look forward to these initiatives. Now, the other thing that I want to bring out in the president's speech is there is no mention of insecurity in our county. When the president was sworn in, after a few days in office, you realize there was an attack in Turkana East and it was happening within the boundaries of Kenya. A number of police officers were killed, including civilians. This issue of insecurity should be taken seriously because we know for a long time operations, security operations have been undertaken in these areas, but the results have been the same. So there is need, and I thank the Deputy President because he was able to meet us and engage, but we want results. That was a meeting, a boardroom meeting. We agreed on a number of issues. We are yet to see what happens what comes out from that operation. You know very well, we cannot have development. The areas under attack are grasslands. And so, in essence, this has contributed to the loss of, livelihood and mainstay of this community. So, even within the borders, even within the country, the government should be proactive to bring this thing to an end. And I don't say it's only happening in Turkana, but it is happening in areas within Kerio Valley. And there is hue and cry over this insecurity situation in these areas. The government should come out very strongly in taking care of this. Lastly, so that I can also donate my time to my colleagues who are first-timers. In the international border, where my constituency is placed, this is a community that has protected this country for a long time. And we will continue to engage the government on this so that we can have NPRs. The intervention on NPRs has paid off. These are, we are bordering hostile communities from the other side. Like in Ethiopia, we are bordering Merile, Dasnach, very hostile to our community. We are also bordering Nyangatom in Ethiopia, very hostile to our community. And you realize there is little presence of government in these areas. And the only thing we can do is to protect ourselves. And in protecting ourselves, we want to do it, in a way that is not illegal. We want the government to strengthen the NPR initiative so that our
Thank you, Honorable Member. Nyaribari Church MP.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My name is Zahir Janda, Member of Parliament, Nyaribari Chache constituency. First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, I would like to congratulate you for being elected together with your able deputy, the Honorable Madam Boss Sholei. Mr. Speaker, it is also my singular honor to thank the people of Nyaribari Chache who gave me this opportunity to lead It is also my singular honor to thank the people of Nyaribari Chache constituency, the people who voted for me It has never happened in the history of Kisii since independence, where I got the highest number of votes in my constituency since independence. Mr. Speaker, I want to touch on the President's speech. I will make it very short. I want to support the President's speech because he talked about having fruitful discussions with the operators of Fuliza and Mshwari to reduce the cost of credit by about 40%. He also promised his administration will allocate 50 billion shillings every year to the Hustlers Fund so that the micro, small, medium, and micro, small, and medium enterprises can access the credit and leverage on them. Mr. Speaker, the issue of low-cost housing is a very good initiative because in my place, the Kisii County, we have issues of land. But this will not lock us out to be beneficiaries of the low-cost housing because whenever they're building up the houses are being built with going upwards. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to remind my fellow Kenyans, especially from Nyanza, where I come from, that the presidency is a symbol of national unity. The presidency should be respected. We came from an electioneering period. The election is behind us. We have to come together as a country and support the government. But I am not happy with my people, especially in Nyanza, where His Excellency President William Ruto was there last week. The leadership of Nyanza refused to attend deliberately for political reasons, but it is very sad, uncouth, and barbaric to have such leaders do that. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I also want to encourage other leaders to work with the current government. We have a government that was elected, and they should not discriminate because these leaders, they have a salary, they are earning money, but their people are going to suffer. That is not correct. We will not agree, and we want to encourage fellow leaders to support our Kenya Kwanza government. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, the people of Kisii County, especially Nyaribari Chache, where I come from, they have entrusted me and looking forward for me to be able to legislate the agenda and the promise that I made to them in these 5 years. Mr. Speaker, that is it. Thank you so much, and I wish to donate my time probably to my brother Mohammed Ali, who is next to me.
You can surrender your time, but you cannot choose the next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
For Manyata.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you for this opportunity to give my maiden speech. And first, I want to start by thanking God and the people of Manyata constituency for giving me this opportunity to share with my fellow members of Parliament, as the President called it, a premium platform of the chosen few, and I'm privileged to be one of them. I want to tell the people of Manyata that I'll try my best to represent them fully and ensure that their voice is heard. I also want to join my brother from Mumias East to request that we, the newcomers, be given a very good share of the time in this house so that we can air our views and those of our constituents. I also want to say that I'm looking forward to working with my fellow members to solve various issues that are affecting this country, especially joblessness of our young people. Honorable Speaker, we have many crises in this country, but the crisis of lack of jobs is one that requires serious attention.